I don't know what happens to certain people when they enter a condominium. It's as if, as soon as they walk through the door, some button inside them activates the building sheriff mode. It's like, now's my chance to boss someone around, if only by using the communal treadmill. I swear to all that is holy, I never imagined that a 45-minute workout in the communal gym would cause what it did. I sweated, of course, because, you see, I was working out. I was using the leg machine, then I jumped on the treadmill, did a bit of abdominal training, took a peek in the mirror to see if the pump was coming, and voila. Someone decided that my sweating was North America's new problem. The woman appeared out of nowhere. She seemed to be watching me through a hidden camera. She walked in looking like she'd been summoned directly by the UN to intervene in an international security crisis. Sandals, expensive leggings, a fitness t-shirt, and that tight bun that seems to hold even the frustrations of life. She didn't even say good morning. She just came in, pointed at the device I'd just used, and let out a, "This is disgusting." I was confused, because, as well as having the towel there, ready to wipe it off, as I always do, as any civilized person does, I was going to go back and do another series. But no, to her, I wasn't sweating. I was committing an act of vandalism, an assault on public space, an attack on the order and morals of the condominium. Sweat became proof of a crime. That was it. My crime, sweating. Her tone of voice was the kind that sounds like it comes with an instruction manual. "Some people here just don't have any manners," she said, looking straight at me, as if she was trying to turn me into dust with the force of her hatred. And the crazy thing was that it wasn't just about me. It was about the kind of people this condominium is accepting. I swear I heard her say it. The sentence came out heavy with venom, as if I had invaded a space that, in her mind, was exclusive to a certain type of resident. Those who don't sweat, don't breathe loudly, and wear perfume even to run. There were 2 other people in the gym at the time, and neither of them said anything. Nobody laughed, nobody defended, nobody blinked. I became an uncomfortable scene from an independent movie. That moment when silence is louder than any shout. But come on, so far, you can take a deep breath, right? I could have ignored it. I could have laughed it off and let it go. But the problem was that the woman didn't stop. She started making stories. She turned on her cell phone and recorded, saying that she was tired of certain residents who treated the equipment as if it were prison equipment. Guys, prison, because I sweat on a treadmill. She spoke loudly on purpose. She repeated phrases as if she were campaigning for liquidator. "Is this what you want for our condominium?" And imagine the kind of illness that sweat carries. She even mentioned COVID, as if I were a walking virus vector just because I was trying to lose a belly. The most comical, tragic, and annoying thing is that she filmed me, called me a pig, and even said that she was going to sort it out with the administration. I told her I hadn't finished, that I was going to clean everything up, as I always did. She ignored it. She marched off, leaving the smell of desperation mixed with expensive perfume. And that's when the soap opera turned into a crime series. 30 minutes later, I was still there, finishing my workout and rubbing alcohol into the machine, when the condominium security guard came in with that "I've been sent to sort out some rich, spoiled people" look on his face. He came with the greatest politeness in the world, visibly uncomfortable, saying that they had made a formal complaint about inappropriate conduct and lack of hygiene in the gym. That's when it hit me. She really did try to kick me out of the condo gym because I sweated. I didn't shout. I didn't fight. I didn't break anything. I sweated, with a towel, with alcohol gel on my side. And I still became a case to be investigated. The first part ends here. But hold on, because you have no idea what this woman got up to afterwards. Not content with trying to humiliate me, she decided to make me public enemy number 1 in the fitness world, but I didn't let it go. The irony of it all is that the next day I woke up with unbearable muscle pain and a notification on the condo app. That's right, a notification, like those bank collection messages, only with more arrogance and less logic. "Dear residents, We remind you that the use of the gym must follow the rules of hygiene and common sense. And there, right there, in the middle of the statement, was the pearl. Users who display inappropriate behavior, such as leaving devices wet with sweat or wearing inappropriate clothing, may be warned and even temporarily suspended. Suspension for sweating, not for destroying, vandalizing, threatening, number sweating in a place made for working out. It was almost poetic, if it wasn't pathetic. I stared at the cell phone as if it had spoken to me in Latin, and there was only one thing on my mind. This woman had pulled some strings. She must have gone straight to the management of the condominium, put on her little show, told the story in the most dramatic way possible, perhaps even saying that I was sweating aggressively, as if that were a new category of urban crime. And of course, she used that sweet voice of someone who pays her rent on time and attends Pilates classes with the landlady. Because that's the trick. They don't shout at those who decide. They charm, manipulate, and then, when they turn their backs, leave a trail of chaos in their wake. And me? I got the fame, the reputation of the guy who doesn't know how to behave in the gym, the sweaty one, the wet one, the one who spreads toxic sweat all over the extension bench. But what this woman didn't know is that I'm not the kind of guy who swallows toads quietly, much less a sweaty toad. I may have looked calm, a bit zen, but my blood was already boiling. It wasn't just about the sweat. It was about being treated like dirt by someone who thinks the condominium is her fiefdom. So, that very day, I decided I was going to find out what else she was up to. Because, you see, people who have time to worry about other people's sweat usually have too much time on their hands, and people who have too much time usually fuck up. I started paying attention, observing. I started reading the condo's WhatsApp group with different eyes, and look, her name, or rather her presence, because sometimes she doesn't even have to say her name, was on everything. Complaining about the neighbor's dog who barks very aggressively. Complaining about the neighbor in 304 who walks in the hallway with her clothes too short, a moral disservice. She had already made an anonymous complaint about a resident who used the barbecue with 10 people, the limit was 8, and amazingly, she had already tried to forbid a father from playing with his son in the garden because the grass needed a rest. The grass needed rest. That's when I realized it wasn't personal. I mean, it was, but not just for me. It was a pattern, a kind of sick pleasure in controlling, poking, feeding off conflict. And all this disguised with the air of, I'm just looking out for the collective well-being. I thought about talking to the administration, telling my side of the story, saying that I cleaned the machine, that I always used a towel, that it was within the rules. But you know when you feel like it's just going to be another attempt in vain? That deep down, the person listening has already decided which side they're going to take because the other person is more influential, more present, more active in meetings. I knew that if it was just my word against hers, I'd already lost. So I did what any rational, revenge-minded person would do. I started training even harder. That's right. I went back to the gym the next day, in the most eye-catching clothes I had, increased the intensity of my training, doubled the repetitions, set the treadmill to maximum incline. Did I sweat? I sweated like a horse in a rally, but with my towel, with my alcohol gel, with a very clear conscience. She came into the gym 5 minutes after me, and she just stared at me. She didn't say anything, just watching with that, "Are you still here?" look. And I pretended not to see, with my headphones in my ears, and a look like I didn't care. But I could see it. I could feel her discomfort growing like a giant pimple about to explode. Every drop of sweat dripping from my forehead was an affront to her empire. And that's when she tried her second attack. She took out her cell phone and started filming. Again, but this time, I was ready. I finished my workout calmly, cleaned up, complied with protocol, and before I left, I turned to her camera and smiled. A cynical smile, the kind that screams, "Try again! Go!" The next day, The doorman stopped me. He said the woman had asked to see the gym's security cameras. She wanted proof of my behavior. Guys, she wanted to set up a criminal investigation into my sweat. That was it. A CSI of perspiration. The poor doorman looked at me with pity. He knew. Everyone knew. But nobody did anything about it. So I decided to do something. I started collecting prints of her messages, reports from neighbors who had already been the target of the same harassment, and I went after the condominium's bylaws. I sat down, read, researched, because if she could be obsessive, I could also be methodical, and I began to put together a dossier on the woman who hated sweat. But little did I know that she was going to take the next step towards absurdity. Because when that kind of person feels they're losing control, they don't back down. They dig deeper, and the hole she dug this time almost took her straight to the police station. And me? I just wanted to work out in peace. Things went off the rails a week later. I thought she'd get tired of it, that her little show with her cell phone in her hand, and her look like a sweat inspector had had enough. But I underestimated her. With this kind of person, it's never just about you. It's about power, about control, about the addiction to petty authoritarianism disguised as community zeal. It started with a circular, printed. That's right, a sheet of paper taped to the gym door, as if we were back in the 90s. It said, "Dear tenants, due to recurring behaviors that compromise hygiene and the proper use of the equipment, the gym will be inspected on a daily basis. Sincerely, the Welfare and Coexistence Committee." A committee that, guess what, doesn't exist. It never existed. It was just her. The woman was self-elected, self-nominated, and self-consumed by her own illusion of command. But the best or worst thing was that she put a controlled use sign on the bench press. Controlled by whom? By her, of course, the new self-declared trustee of the acrylic plates. And when I went in to train that day, there she was, sitting on a folding chair next to the mirror with a clipboard. I'm not exaggerating. A clipboard with timetables, names, and, it seemed, a system for observing each resident's level of sweat. I walked in and stared at it. I thought, it's not possible. This is a prank. Someone is secretly filming me. But no, it was just reality, more absurd than any comedy. She raised her eyes, looked at me as if she'd already written down my CPF in a black notebook, and said in that pasty voice of false kindness, "Oh, you came again today. You know about the new rules, right? Rules." As if she had the authority to define what can and can't be done. As if she were some kind of judge of other people's transparency. I took a deep breath and went straight to the device. Did she? She wrote it down. She wrote it down. She literally marked me as a repeat user. I felt like laughing, but I also felt like throwing that weight bench into the pool. I controlled myself. I did my entire workout with her by my side, like a fiscal owl, noting down how many times I used the alcohol, how hard I cleaned, and even the speed of my treadmill. I know because I saw it. She was timing it. I left the gym really sweating, not just my body, but my soul. An emotional exhaustion that only those who have dealt with crazy people in an imaginary office can understand. But that day, something changed in me. I realized that if she had the time, the inclination, and the insanity to do all that, I would too. Only I was going to do it the right way. I went to the concierge, asked to see the incident book, and there were 3 entries in my name, made by her, detailed, dated, and with words that bordered on delirium. User refuses to sanitize equipment. Visible signs of excessive perspiration. Aggressive attitude towards other residents. Visible signs of excessive perspiration. Sounds like a clinical diagnosis. I almost asked for a doctor's note to prove that I'm just a human being trying not to die sedentary. But then I understood. She was trying to put together a history, to create a dossier of bad behavior that, sooner or later, would be used to really screw me over. And that's when I knew I needed allies, witnesses, proof. I started talking to other residents, one by one. I started off lightly, probing, asking if they had ever experienced any strange situations with that woman from the gym, and it wasn't long before they collapsed. One said that she tried to forbid him from doing jumping jacks in the garden because it scared the children. Another said she tried to fine a neighbor because she washed the carpet on the balcony, and this disrespected the building's feng shui. There was one who said that she had complained about his laughter. Noise, not in keeping with the residential environment. The man's laugh. It was a horror show. A parade of bizarre things wrapped in imaginary letterhead. And then, together, we started to put it all together. Prints of messages, videos, reports, everything documented. She thought she was untouchable, but she hadn't counted on the fact that no one else could stand the dictatorship of invented common sense. And that's when unity is strength. But of course, when she realized she was losing control, she freaked out. She went into total destruction mode. She started following people in the elevator. She started knocking on doors demanding explanations about nasty comments in the condo group. She went to the liquidator to demand the expulsion of residents who were destabilizing order. And when the liquidator said she wouldn't do anything without proof, the woman went berserk. And then came the climax. She signed a petition with a title worthy of a courtroom movie: Residents in Favor of Order, Cleanliness, and Good Coexistence. And the body of the text was a manifesto against individuals who use common spaces as if they were in their private garages, leaving traces of dirt, sweat, and negative energy. Negative energy. I was accused of sweating and carrying negative energy. Maybe I should have lit some incense before the bench press, right? But the best thing, the highlight of the outburst, was that she stuck this petition on every door in the building. Everywhere, as if she were summoning the residents to a collective exorcism. Only nobody signed it. Not a soul, not a soul. And that's when she started to wilt, melting inside. Because these people, when they don't have an audience, lose their meaning. But she hadn't given up yet. Because there are people who would rather go down dragging others along than accept that they've lost control. And in part 4, well, then she decided to appeal to the police. And you think that's it? I woke up one Saturday to a knock on the door. 3 dry, direct knocks, with the energy of someone who wasn't there to sell cosmetics or offer an English course. When I opened the door, I saw 2 policemen. Yes, 2. Uniformed, serious, with the face of someone who had been called in for an emergency. And for a brief second, my brain fried trying to understand what could have happened. Had someone broken into my parking space? Had they found a body in the building's swimming pool? Was the grass in the garden really a portal to another dimension? Number it was about me. The police officer, who was far too polite, asked me if I could go down to the entrance to clarify a complaint of aggressive behavior in the common areas. For a few seconds, I could only laugh. A nervous, soundless laugh from someone who no longer knows what planet they're living on. Because there was no doubt about it. The woman had called the police. Why had she done that? Because I, you see, was threatening order and collective well-being with my intimidating posture and repeated hostile behavior. Intimidating behavior. That's because I work out with my headphones on and the look on my face of someone who just wants to finish their biceps in peace. The security guard at the gate looked embarrassed. He said he was forced to register the incident because she made a point of calling and demanding a formal report. She turned up shortly afterwards, of course, all made up, with the smile of someone who believes she's about to win an Oscar for Best Dramatic Actress. She arrived with a plastic folder full of papers and said, "Officers, these are the records. Videos, notes, prints. He's been breaking the rules of the condominium for weeks, creating a hostile and unhealthy environment for all of us." The word unhealthy made me want to laugh again. It was as if she was reporting an outbreak of leprosy, a biological attack, an epidemic caused by sweat. I looked at the policeman, took a deep breath, and asked if they wanted to see the cameras in the gym. Because it was all there. Every day I went in, trained, cleaned the equipment, and left without even looking in her direction. They looked at each other. One of them shook his head like he'd seen this kind of circus before and said that they would check the videos. But they asked me to avoid new conflicts until then. Satisfied with the show, she went on to say, "It's very difficult to live in an environment where people have no empathy. I'm an advocate of peace." I almost choked on that one. The woman who created a war against other people's sweat by claiming to defend peace is like a pyromaniac talking about fire safety. After that, I didn't go to the gym for a few days, not out of fear, but out of sheer exhaustion. I was tired of feeling watched, measured, and timed. But she hadn't counted on a little thing called the community, because the residents began to speak out. And then, my friend, it was a domino effect. The neighbor of 402, a 70-year-old woman, went to the administration and handed over an audio she had accidentally recorded, in which the woman said she was going to make this kid learn to behave, and that he'll think twice before sweating in public again. Sweating in public. It sounds like a moralist campaign from the 1950s, and that audio was a bombshell, because it became clear that it wasn't a question of rules, cleanliness, or good coexistence. It was personal. It was persecution by someone completely out of their mind. The administration called an extraordinary meeting. The ballroom was full, the air conditioning was weak, and the tension was thicker than Mrs. Beth's cheesecake batter. The woman showed up dressed as if for a court hearing. She even had a briefcase again, and started handing out papers as if they were campaign leaflets. But this time, nobody swallowed. Nobody. People started talking, one after the other. Old stories, recent ones, of people who had been persecuted, exposed, humiliated. A resident who had his dog denounced because he looked angry. A teenager who was singled out because he wore a cap in the elevator. A girl who was told that it wasn't appropriate to wear a gym top in the building hall. The woman had basically been trying to set up a utopia where only she dictated the rules and the rest bowed down. When the audio was played on the improvised screen with a speaker and an old laptop, the silence was deadly. The phrase, "sweating in public again," echoed as if it were the end of the line. She tried to defend herself, of course. She said that the audio had been taken out of context, that she was referring to another resident, that it was a joke, that, but nobody bought it, because there, at that moment, her mask fell for good. She was the queen of the condominium, emotionally naked, exposed, with no allies. The management issued an official warning. What's more, it forbade her to supervise, control, or interfere in any activity in the common areas. The gym? Now only by online appointment, with no room for intrusion. And a new rule was created. It is forbidden to film other residents without consent inside the common areas. I should have felt relief. In a way, I did. But more than that, I felt pity. Because deep down, I was just a lost person, trying to get some control over a world that has probably always slipped through her fingers. People like that shout, accuse, and point fingers because they don't know what to do with their own emptiness. After that, I never saw her in the gym again, not even at the concierge. She disappeared. She must have retreated, waiting for the dust to settle. Or maybe she found another target, because the kind of people who hate sweat usually also hate freedom, movement, anything that isn't a mirror of themselves. And me? Well, I'm still working out. And if you liked this video, don't forget to leave your like and comment below.